Ha ha ha. I've got my hat on backwards. I've got my shirt untucked. And guess what, folks? I got my Fresca, just like Joey said I needed to have. I am having fun. The Reds have won 8 of their last 9 series and show no signs of slowing down. There's no team more fun to watch right now than the Cincinnati Reds. This team is legit. We're going to tell you why they are in the driver's seat on today's Locked On Reds.
Gotta fix my hat.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, and thank you so much for joining myself, Jeff Carr, and my co-host, Stephen Offenbaker. We are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that have turned an addiction to this team into information for you. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us talk some Reds with you. We encourage you, if you're listening, to hit us up on Twitter, or if you're watching here on YouTube, drop a thought down in our comments section. For those of you everydayers that like to join us here, thank you so very much for making us part of your day. You are the reason that we continue to talk about this amazing team, and sure, they're lots of fun, but we love talking Reds baseball with you, so make sure you join in with us, and you can continue the conversation with us in a couple of different ways. We've got a great Discord server that the link is in the description for you to join the group with us on Discord, and you can join me on Subtext. Just text the word "I'm in" to 513-597-0944, or there's also a link for that here in the description, and we will talk about all the rumors coming up on the trade deadline for your Cincinnati Reds and how the team can be better, or are there any rumors at all? That's a tease to the next live show coming up on Thursday. But for now, on today's show, this team is so much fun. We are going to talk about why the lineup stayed hot on Wednesday night, why the pitching is getting better, and we are going to look forward to a very interesting test for Brandon Williamson coming up on today's early game against the Nationals. Before we get into all of that, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper Picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And what we are going to check out, Steve, is the Reds lineup, because they were on one on Wednesday night. They scored 9 runs, and Steve, they left 16 men on base. We could have been talking about like 20 runs here.
Oh, they were a Jonathan India pickoff away from blowing that thing wide open, I think.
Yeah.
It had a real opportunity to get away. We could have seen some position player pitching moments had things gone just a little bit differently. But I'll tell you what is fun besides the offense. It's the guys that are contributing and how they're doing it. I want to start with Joey Votto, because he continues to heat up. He was 3 for 5 last night, Jeff, with another home run. He scored 2 runs in that game. Apparently, he's a base running threat now, and we'll get into that in just a minute, because he did something I've never seen him do before in that game. And it shows that his game is evolving. And I really think, Jeff, that these young guys are just rubbing off on him, and they're going to continue to get him to elevate his game. Is it going to be Hall of Fame Joey Votto numbers? No, but it's going to be above league average Joey Votto numbers, and I'm just happy to see it evolving. We get poo-pooed every time Joey does something, and we talk about it, and people are like, "Oh yeah, but what did he do the next day?" Well, this series he continues to deliver. Another home run, some great, maybe not great, but some interesting base running moments, and Joey's helping the team. And
maybe it was
right when you go to drink some water. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Dry throat or something. I don't know what's going on, but maybe it's the Fresca. I don't know. There's something in the Fresca for Joseph Daniel Votto, because he had a great day. And he was asked after the game, he said, the other day he said he's just looking for that game that he breaks out and then everything's fine, the big game. And he was asked, Was that the big game?
I don't know. I don't feel like I've quite got it going yet in terms of my swing, but I feel like I've made really good progress, and that I'm happy that I can, I'm happy that I can help the team as often as I can when I'm on the field.
That's so Joey, man. I mean, a 3-hit day. He had 2 singles in that home run. The homer tied it. So technically, by the way, this was another comeback win because they were down 1-0 before they finally, went off. But that is the key Joey answer that just follows along with where he's at. I was talking about this earlier today with somebody else, in that he is able to fall into his comfort zone with this team. Think about in the past, there's been lots of people that like to say, well, he's not really a vocal leader. He never has been. He's never had to be. And in the years where he was the key player on this roster, people wanted him to be, and he just never really became that guy. Now, he doesn't have to be. He can just be a dude in this lineup, and he is absolutely falling into that in a good way.
Yeah, and listen, not to be outdone just at the plate. I think the running Reds have got Joey feeling himself a little bit. Did you see this play where he ends up inducing a balk because he was going to steal a base, Jeff? That's what was going to happen. He was trying to jump out to a big secondary lead to steal second, and instead the pitcher doesn't step off, but makes a move. Joey puts on the brakes. It ends up being a balk, scoring a run. And then later in the same half inning, Joey's at third base, and there's a little trickler down the third baseline. And because apparently you need to respect Votto's speed, the throw doesn't go home. It goes to first instead, allowing a run to score.
That was a bad decision. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Jamer Candelario should have thrown it home. I think, okay, here's a bold prediction for you rest of the way. Joey's going to get a steal. Now, it might be against the Washington Nationals, who's between Keibert Ruiz and the guy who caught yesterday, whose name is escaping me. But between those two guys, the Reds have so many steals on these two catchers, and they're going to break. I know 1995 was the most steals that they had before the All-Star break in a long time. They passed that already up, and I just love what they've been doing on the base running side of things. And speaking of base running, later on in the game, you saw a steal from Elly De La Cruz, and that was like the 5th most impressive thing that he did, because why? Davey Martinez made him mad early on in the game. Well, why did he think?
Apparently the lesson to learn here is don't tick off Elly De La Cruz, because once upset, he went off. He had a great game, Jeff. He was 3 for 6, He scored 2 runs, and obviously there was this controversy. The Nationals dugout and Martinez challenged this device that is attached to the knob of Elly De La Cruz's bat. And after a lengthy delay in which the umpires actually called up New York to get a ruling on this, it was determined that no, Elly could not bat with this device. And my understanding is this device tracks his bat speed and helps him.
They said it was like a sensor, Yeah.
So he was forced to take it off for that at bat. And turns out, upon further investigation, he's had this thing all along. He had approval from Major League Baseball. So he got to put it back on for the next at bat, and he was ticked off.
Yeah. And David Bell kind of detailed why this happened, and I appreciated the detail that he went into.
So it's a knob on his bat that we as an organization got approved by Major League Baseball. The umpires did not have record of that. The replay crew where they called to double check it didn't have record of it, so we had to take an extra step, get word to the replay crew, and then the umpiring crew contacted them, and by the second at bat it was cleared up. So not ideal, but it was one at bat that Elly had to take without being as comfortable, because it's something he's used for a long time. So that's why we took the steps and made the effort to make sure it was approved. So it was the one at bat he had to hit without that, and then fortunately we did what we had to do to make sure that he could hit with it in his second at bat.
That is why whenever he hit the home run, the monster shot, 455 estimated feet, 111.6 miles an hour off the bat, absolutely laser into the second deck in right field. He turned around and he pointed to the knob on the bat just like, what? Because Davey Martinez knew, the Nationals knew what they were doing. They were trying to play head games with him. And he's just like, ain't gonna work, pal. Ain't gonna work, pal. I got 3 hits tonight. What are you gonna do about that? And so Davey Martinez getting all butthurt about it after the game and saying, I didn't like that he didn't point to the knob. It's like, get over it, dude. You lost.
You know, I was a little worried that we might have a home plate incident. When I saw him do that, I really locked in on the end of that home run trot because I was afraid there were going to be words between Elly and the catcher, but it stayed cool and everything was fine. But, you know, I like that kind of fire. That's you know what? I'm not stuffy, and I don't think that it was really all that disrespectful. I mean, it was an answer. It was an answer to a challenge. And, you know, if you're the Nationals and you don't want Elly to have that moment, then don't let him hit a home run.
And you know what? We should be thanking Davey Martinez for trying to play these head games, because it's very possible coming into this third game, you got a getaway day game tomorrow, the way that they've been playing, maybe they kind of sleepwalk through this game a little bit. Josiah Gray, all-star, because, you know, every team gets an all-star, but still, he's had a pretty nice first half of the season, so you could see some explanation where the bats might go to sleep. And then this happens, and they're like, no, we're going to destroy the Nationals. And they did, because on top of the amazing performances from Joey and Elly, you had a multi-hit game from TJ Friedl, Jake Fraley, Will Benson. Everybody was getting on base at least 2 or 3 times. He had a couple of different walks. Matt McClain kind of had a tough luck day. Like, I feel like he should have had 2 or 3 hits, and they ended up getting robbed from him because that was the one guy the Nationals decided to play defense against today. But overall, just a beautiful game as the Reds completely dismantled the Nationals once again.
Yeah, and let's not forget that one of Joey Votto's hit came off of a left-handed pitcher. Jake Fraley off of a left-handed pitcher. I'll take that. That's exciting. That is a difference maker when some of these left-handed bats start hitting left-handed pitching. And I know, small sample size, but it's very, very encouraging. I just hope that with the bats staying hot, that means the Reds are going to continue to stay hot. And by the way, 2-game lead in the National League Central. Graham Ashcraft pitched around some trouble for 6 strong innings last night. His resurgence transforms this team in many ways. We'll tell you why coming up next. Before we get to that, I want to talk about one of the sponsors of today's podcast. Are you using the Sleeper app for your daily fantasy baseball? Well, if you're not, you are missing out. You can get higher payouts than other apps with less picks. Entries can be made in 30 seconds or less. It's just that easy. Plus, Sleeper has safe and fast withdrawals. Do you want to make 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball? Well, Sleeper is now offering up to 100 times payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. Use the promo code Locked On and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. The Reds and the Nationals finish up this 4-game set with the Reds looking for a sleep. It gets underway at 1:05 p.m. Eastern time. That's 7:05 a.m. if you're hanging out with me here in Hawaii. And if you can't be at the ballpark, you can catch every pitch with me on the beach. The Reds hometown broadcast is available with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just download the app and search the word Reds. Thanks, as always, for making Locked On Reds your first listen every day. Everydayers, we have a live show coming up today, 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be just a little bit after this Reds game ends. Jeff and I are going to take a look at the trade deadline. It's getting closer and closer. We're going to be talking about some rumors. We're going to be talking about some suggested deals. And we're going to be talking about whether or not the Reds should really do anything at all. We can't wait to talk about all that with you. 4 p.m. Eastern time today. All right, Jeff, with Ashcraft looking a little bit better, it's starting to look like he's figuring things out. I'm wondering if he's going to maybe not be an overpowering strikeout kind of guy the rest of the way. He's looking more and more like, we're hearing this on the broadcast. I know that Cowboy's been talking about it. I know Chris Welsh was talking about it. He's been allowing a lot of soft contact. Guys are getting around on him. They're putting the bat on the ball, but they're not really able to do anything with it. They're not being able to drive the ball. When hits sneak through, it's soft stuff. It's base hits. He's not really allowing anybody to hit for power against him. And, that Graham Ashcraft plays all right. That guy's okay in this rotation. And, it seems like each time out now for his last 3 starts, he's looked a little bit better.
And I think the key with that is the pitch mix that he has. And we've talked about this before, how he kind of needs that other pitch that breaks a different way from his cutter and his slider. And I think that the way that he can still be successful without that third pitch, without that out pitch, if you will, is the fact that those pitch do have a little bit of movement. When you're talking about the cutter and the slider, none of it's straight. A hitter's not going to be able to key up exactly on where it's going to be, so they might be able to get the ball on it. And the Nationals got the bat on the ball on Wednesday night. They got 7 hits, but all of them were singles. There were no real hard hit type contact against Graham Ashcraft's pitches. And the key with all of this is he can have confidence in the defense behind him, because ever since Matt McLain and Elly De La Cruz were added to the infield, this team is turning a lot more double plays. They're turning a lot more ground balls into outs, and that's kind of translated to the outfield being a lot better as well. Like Spencer Steer plays very well in left field, and Jake Fraley and TJ Friedel are pretty good defensively as well. They can cover a lot of ground. So with all of that being said, he doesn't have to be Hunter Green or Nick Lodolo or Andrew Abbott and go out there and get 12 strikeouts to start. He can be the guy that goes out there and throws 7 or 8 innings and only throws 90 pitches, 100 pitches, something like that, and saves the bullpen. That is of immense value, especially right now for a bullpen that's just overtaxed. But his profile still makes this pitching staff so much better whenever he understands his strengths.
I know you're probably not old enough to have a lot of memories of Tom Browning on the mound for the Reds, but I grew up watching Tom Browning, and the way that Ashcraft is pitching right now reminds me a lot of Tom Browning. It's like a nose to the grindstone, grind it out, let the defense work for you. Browning also benefited from having some great defenders behind him, a guy named Barry Larkin for one. And we've seen that with Ashcraft. You're right. The left side of the infield, you really have to work to get something through there right now with De La Cruz and McLain playing at the same time. I think we keep hearing that the Reds are playing old school baseball. They're playing small ball. They're doing things the old way. We hear various versions of that coming from a lot of different sources right now, and not in a bad way. It's not being said with negative connotations. It's, it's almost said with appreciation, especially for people, my age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, that came up on that style of baseball. And right now, watching guys like Ashcraft, who give up a lot of ground ball contact and let this defense make great plays behind them, that's the old way. That's how we came up watching Reds baseball. And it's been exciting to watch. And, you can give up 7 hits, all singles. And as long as it's not 7 in a row, you're probably going to come out of that okay.
Right. And, I got a theory about that, kind of responding to the playing the baseball the old way. I think there's definitely some credence to that, and they're doing that on the field, but I think that more what is comparing them to playing baseball the way that things used to be is the fact that they're playing good. The Reds used to be good whenever they played the old way. And now that they're good again, it's like, oh yes, they're playing the old way. I think it's just because we're finally seeing the fruits of all of our waiting and the prospects and all this other stuff. We're seeing all these guys come up and fill out this team, and they have been able to build something that looks sustainable from where we're starting right now. This is just the starting line. We're not even into, the circuit here, the race, the contention window that we're talking about. And the fact that they've been able to do it with the pitching that we've seen, and I know there's been people in the comments section that are just like, y'all's pitching's terrible. Once your hitting slows down, you're going to slow down. I'm like, dude, if you hadn't looked, last couple of starts for the Reds have been very good, and the bullpen has been a lot better than people want to give them credit for so far this year. That continued on Wednesday night. That, more than anything, is what has us so bullish on our future playoff prospects and what we're looking at even just in this season, because this isn't the final form of this team. The final form of this team involves Hunter Green, involves Nick Lodolo, involves a Graham Ashcraft that consistently pitches like we've been seeing, and involves Andrew Abbott continue to move forward, and whatever Brandon Williamson can give us later, what we see from him on Thursday. And it gives me chills thinking about what this team could be and how they're not even at their potential.
Jeff, this is the same team that now has a 2-game lead in the National League Central, that started the year with both Connor Overton and Luis Cessa in the rotation. And somewhere along the way, we got rid of Overton and Cessa, but also lost Green and Lodolo. And still, they have a 2-game lead. And a lot of it is because of this bullpen that we've been talking about, who has pitched above and beyond what really should have been expected from them. And they did it again last night. In spite of Derek Law allowing a run on 2 hits in his 1 inning of work, his ERA is still sub-3. And for a reliever, they give up a couple of runs, all of a sudden they look terrible because their ERA balloons. So that tells you how good he pitched prior to his injury, because giving up a run didn't really move the needle very much on his earned run average. So he's going to be just fine. He's valuable now, and it's great to have a rested arm back in that bullpen. Alex Young, a scoreless 8th. Fernando Cruz, a scoreless 9th. You want to know what the most exciting thing about that is, Jeff? I did not say Lucas Sims. I did not say Buck Farmer. I did not say Alexis Diaz. And for the 2nd game in a row, we did not say Alexis Diaz. And that is huge heading into a big, big, big series of 7 games between the All-Star, sandwiched around the All-Star breaks, with the biggest challenger to the Reds in the division, the Milwaukee Brewers.
In which the Reds could really, really create some space if they win. I even say even just 4 out of those 7. Like, if you win 4 out of the 7, you gain 1 game out of this sandwich series. That's what we're going to call it, by the way, the sandwich series. I officially now want to go make a sandwich, and I'm hungry. But yeah, I know. Man, I had a really good one. Never mind. We're not going to get off topic.
Listen, I am with you on this, though. I'm viewing this through a single series lens. Yes. This is very, I know it's not going to be a back and forth evenly split, but it feels very playoff baseball-ish, where we've got some of the games away and some of the games at home in a series. That's how this feels. And, it's sandwiched with the games being in Milwaukee before the All-Star break and in Cincinnati after the All-Star break. But make no mistake, if the Reds can do 4 wins or better in that 7-game series, you talk about being in the driver's seat. I said this up top, that the Reds are in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny now. A 2-game lead in the division, a big opportunity against probably the most likely team to overtake them. You beat the snot out of the Brewers in these 7 games, you may propel them on their way to dismantling that team. It could have huge implications within the division for what happens with the Brewers after this 7-game series. And then then it's the likes of the Cubs, the Pirates, and the Cardinals. And I don't know if you've looked down division right now, but there's not really a whole lot going on down there to even pay attention to.
And man, that is something, and it's something we've been looking at with this Brewers team. They could blow it up. And by the way, Marcus Stroman pitches for the Cubs against the Brewers today. He's been the best pitcher in the National League. There's a real shot here. Real shot for the Reds if Brandon Williamson can deliver a beautiful start, and if the Reds bats can continue to just mash here in this finale. And we're going to tell you why this test is very important for the Reds, but also for Brandon Williamson, coming up next. Before we talk about that, though, I want to let you know, Reds and Nationals finish up their 4-game set today at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Depending on when you're listening to this, you might be listening to it during the game. But if you can't be at the ballpark, you can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search the word Reds. You can also follow Locked On Reds on all podcasting platforms, including your favorite, and on YouTube. Also, join the community on Discord. I mentioned it at the top of the show. We've got a great community talking Reds all throughout the day on Discord. I got the link down in the description, and you can join me on Subtext and get a direct line to me. Just text "I'm in" to 513-597-0944, and we'll be talking all about the rumors as they happen. I'm going to bring you every single Reds trade rumor through this trade deadline season. They're on Subtext. Just text "I'm in" to 513-597-0944. All right, Steve, Brandon Williamson is back on the mound today. Had a pretty decent start out his last time. He's going to face Mackenzie Gore in this finale in Washington. There's so many things about a 4-game sweep, even if it's at home, that are tough. But the Reds have a shot on the road to do this, and Brandon Williamson really has a shot to make a name for himself moving forward.
He does, and things line up really well for the Reds here. Let's talk about Mackenzie Gore for just a second. He started off fairly good on the season, left-handed pitcher. In his last 7 starts, though, Jeff, he's gone 1-4 with a 5.3 ERA. His last time out against the Phillies, they put it on him. He only lasted 2 2/3 of an inning. He gave up 7 runs on 6 hits. I think with the way that the Reds have been hitting lefties of late, this is a great matchup to get out of the nation's capital with, as you say, the elusive 4-game sweep. And I think the key is which Brandon Williamson do we get? Do we get the Brandon Williamson who was like his last time out, where he pitched 5 innings, where he only allowed 2 runs on 3 hits? But here was the key. In that start, Jeff, he struck out 5. He only walked 1 batter. And that has been the biggest knock against Brandon Williamson, is that he walks too many guys. If the Reds are going to pull this sweep off, he's got to be that guy. He's got to be that Brandon Williamson that doesn't issue the free passes. Because like we talked about with Graham Ashcraft, if the other team puts the ball in play, that's fine. This defense has got you. There's enough talent on the field to back you up. But if you walk guys for free, if you give up the free bases, well, you know, Cam Miller, our buddy, is going to be busy posting the walks will haunt GIF, because that's really what is Brandon Williamson's undoing when he's undone.
Well, and I think that it also takes an added meaning against this Nationals team, because, yes, Graham Ashcraft is very adept at keeping hard contact to a minimum and not letting the opponents barrel up the baseball. But there's something about this Nationals lineup that I think singles are just about the sum of their threats to this Reds pitching staff. So if you can keep the base on balls to a minimum, if you can keep free passes down, if you're not hitting guys, you're not allowing them, just to get on the base paths for free. And the only reason that Graham Ashcraft allowed a run was a wild pitch.
So you want to win the battle of the true outcomes.
Yes, win the battle of the 3 true outcomes. Then Brandon Williamson will win this start, and the Reds will win this game. Because I think that this is a situation, and I think most people would say, well, yeah, they just lost 3 in a row. The Nationals are going to come in hungry. They're going to come in like a wounded animal that's stuck in the corner, and they got nowhere to go but up. And it's just like, if the Reds get up early in this game, the Nationals are going to check out. The Nationals are going to be like, we're done with this. Reds, please just get out of town. Just go. And if they can get up early, Brandon Williamson should just be able to throw strikes for the rest of the game. We could be talking about a 5-inning start. We could be talking about a 6-inning start for Brandon Williamson. And maybe, dare I say, another day where they rest Alexis Diaz.
That would be huge. I mean, yeah. For me, I almost, every game matters now, Jeff. We're in a pennant race. So if it's a 1-2 run ball game, you got to use Alexis Diaz 8th, 9th inning, because he's rested and available. But 3 runs, I think I try to not pitch Alexis Diaz. 3 runs or greater a lead at the end of the ball game today. I'm telling Alexis Diaz, thank you, but just keep sipping your soda. We'll see you in Milwaukee. Because what a tremendous advantage it will be for the Reds if they go to Milwaukee with Diaz having not pitched for the last 3 days. You'll be able to use him for sure 2 of the 3 days in Milwaukee. And then as long as he only pitches an inning during the All-Star break, he'll be available for 3 of the 4 games coming out of the break in Cincinnati. So having him available for, 5 of the 7 games, basically,
Huge.
That's a big deal. That is a huge deal for this Reds bullpen. So I really hope Brandon Williamson can give them 6 innings, because then you can get through the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th and not really need to worry about using Alexis Diaz.
And hopefully that segment ages well, because that's how we're going to end today's podcast. Thanks everybody for checking out Locked On Reds here today. If this is your first time, make sure that you are subscribed. And before we get out of here, don't forget that you can catch every pitch of the Reds hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search the word Reds. That'll wrap up this edition, though, of Locked On Reds. Thanks, as always, for making us your first listen every dayers. We've got a live show coming at you today, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be looking at how the Reds can go through this trade deadline without making any deals, and they're still going to come out on top. Got some thoughts about that coming up on today's live show, so make sure you join us. But until then, Steve, what can the people expect from us cool cats?
They're going to expect us to continue to dial in on the rumors, dial in on what's going on with the waivers, dial in on what's happening down in AAA. We're still keeping an eye on CES. We're going to gather up all that information, bring it right back here to keep everyone locked on Reds every single day.
I think there's a couple of people in the comment section thought we'd get through a whole show without saying CES.
Disappointment.